Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn, and I am one of the legislative aides within Representative Dan Hunt's office. Thank you so much for joining us today for our second Zoom event regarding remote learning, as well as those who are watching this at a later date. I just want to take a moment to share a few words for this introduction as well. You know, it's extremely important to Representative Hunt, of course, to assist and provide for his constituents any resources that they need. As the pandemic continues to dictate how our education system is being conducted, remote learning has become the new normal, where both teachers and parents alike have to quickly learn and understand how to navigate this new terrain. There are many families within the district who have kids of all ages at home learning remotely. The representative is thrilled to represent this Zoom series as one resource to the community with sponsorship and complete gratitude to UMass Boston. And of course, I just want to give a huge thank you to Dr. Christopher Dennings for taking time out of his schedule to create and now deliver this presentation, as well as his years of service to education. So I just want to thank you for that. And as well as to Matt for being our leader in coordinating these past two events and supporting every aspect of the process.
Thank you very much, Evelyn, for that introduction. And I'd like to thank, again, Representative Hunt for sponsoring this series. It's so important right now to be finding any way possible to support families and educators in schools. It's such a challenging time for all of us, unlike anything any of us have been through in the past. And I'd like to thank UMass Boston and our new Chancellor Suarez Orozco, and the Dean of the College of Education and Human Development, Dean Berger, who are also sponsoring this as we look at the second part of the series, the Zoom learning series. So I'll start sharing my screen now and we'll plan to present for about 20 minutes or so here today. And I'm trying to give people some different ideas for ways to support your children at home. I know it's so challenging right now. And then I think we'll have time for a few questions afterward. And if you have, if I don't get to those questions and you email Evelyn at some point, we'd be happy to find a way to get those answers out to folks in the future. I'd just like to introduce myself. I am, so let me see how I get to, sorry about that, trying to figure out my technology here. So I am Chris Denning. I'm the current department chair of curriculum instruction at UMass Boston and faculty member. I've been in education for over 25 years now. So I'm coming to you from kind of thinking about educators working with classroom teachers. I've been a classroom teacher, been a special ed teacher, so focus on supporting a range of kids in classrooms. And I also have three kids of my own. I have a daughter in college. I have two kids in high school now. And I know how challenging this is. I know, how difficult it is. And as I was thinking about this presentation after Evelyn and Representative Hunt came to me to look at it, I talked to colleagues, talked to my wife as well, who works in the schools and tutors kids in this age group, 4th to 8th grade, about what teachers are facing and what students are facing and families are facing. And I also created a small survey just to get a sense of what my colleagues are thinking, what classroom teachers in the area are thinking, and sent it out to them asking for their advice for families and their tips for supporting families right now. So all those ideas are reflected overall in this presentation today. So if you look at kind of an agenda, I want to kind of march through, and then we'll look at each of these individually. I think the key for things always are, how can we stay positive? And I've made it a kind of a cornerstone, I think, of my work from graduate school. I remember a professor talking about this. It's about creating success for kids. So how can we still, in this really challenging environment, create success for our kids, create success for your kids at home. And another way I've kind of tried to view education throughout my career is always honing in on the kids. So what do families have to do to support that? What do teachers have to do to support that? What do administrators have to do to support the whole reason that we're here, which is making sure kids learn and making sure kids are successful in school. The other big ideas we'll look at today are independence, creating independence for this age group, especially 4th to 8th grade. They're really becoming more independent. Looking at routines, checklists, procedures. Classroom teachers are always thinking about this, and I think it's a good thing for you to be thinking about at home too. Having materials ready, when that lesson starts at 9 a.m., 8:30 a.m., having things ready for them to go. So not scrambling around and not looking for things. So we'll talk about that. Having a private workspace, where can they work so they're alone and able to engage? What does break time look like? Checking in with teachers, how does that look, and how frequently might you do that, and what are some ideas to think about there? And then advice from teachers. What are they saying? So these are coming directly from quotes that teachers sent me as I looked at what are they thinking and how would they give advice to you right now? And they were so positive. All of us are trying so hard right now, and we know it's just unlike anything we've ever dealt with before. The lines were, do the best you can. Remember, these are trying times for everyone, but we'll get through this. We will find ways to find success for our kids. We are all in this together. And this idea of take time to have fun together and celebrate small victories. So we've got to go with a work hard, play hard if we can, or work, have our time to work and then take a break and relax and try to have, family time together. There are some advantages to this at times. I think I'm seeing my kids much more often, and we're kind of engaging in different ways at home. So trying to have those small victories, I think. So independence is really, really crucial here. And I think this is a time, one way we can frame this is it's a way where we can help our kids become more independent, and families can have a much bigger role in that. And one way we view this in education is this idea of providing scaffolded support. So you provide just enough support so the kid can be successful doing something, and you're constantly thinking about how you can back out of that. How can you back down and give less support over time? I think that's a real crucial way to look at this right now. You do not have enough time. You all are working multiple jobs. You're working at least one job. You're doing so many things. You've got multiple kids in the house. You can't be everything for everybody. You can't be there all the time, but you can pick and choose how you're doing it and create systems so kids can be more successful. Give them ownership, give them control over things. Ask them, what do you want to do? I didn't put this in here, but providing choice for kids is a huge motivator. Choice for all of us is a huge motivator. So giving them choice about things and giving them the opportunities to do that can really be a powerful motivator, I think. And as I was talking with this about my wife about school and just thinking about my own kids, they want their own space. They're a little bit older than the range we're looking at, 4th to 8th grade, but I certainly think by middle school age, these kids want their own space. They don't really want us in the background walking around. They don't want to hear us. They, if at all possible, give them a room in the house, or give them a corner of a room in the house. Give them their, break off their bedroom as their office space, and create that spot for them so they can be in there. And they do feel awkward when people are in the background. They're much less likely to talk to the class. They don't want their camera on. So honor how they're feeling. And I'll talk about this later, but we're kind of picking and choosing when we come in support and when we come back out. This idea of let go and trust. I think that was one of the things that one of the teachers said. And don't try to necessarily help them during the class period if they've got a 45-minute class, but look at how do you provide that support before it begins, after it ends, or on the different breaks. Provide the supports, like I said, and then step away. You're doing a scaffolding. Another way to view this was be a listening ear to the needs of your student during remote time. So maybe again, that scaffolding, you still want to be present in the background, out of sight, or doing your own thing, but listening in. So be aware of where concerns might arise, but choose a different time to go in and talk about it with your kids. So routines are really big. All of us, I have routines that help me kind of successfully navigate my day. Maybe you have anyway a routine every morning that you follow as a family to get kids out the door in a more normal time frame. Classrooms are always running on routines. So try to create these routines yourself at home. They don't have to be complicated. Just write down what you were doing anyway, but give kids a checklist, get them ownership of it, and talk to them about it. It could be how you get started in a day, what you do during break time, different ways you could do this. Create and stick to a schedule. So the school has a schedule. As you look at your day and try to maybe branch that schedule out. So they got a schedule, find out what the schedule is during school, and kind of write that down so you know exactly what they're supposed to be doing at different times of the day. And then also kind of stretch that out. What's their schedule like before school starts? When do they get their homework done? How do you map out that? Do they need a break when school ends to go outside or do something that's downtime, and then have a set time where they get back to work and just knock it out, or try to knock it out and then move on to things. So work with them about it. Get them involved. Again, give them ownership. Give them control of this. Talk to them about making that schedule, setting alarms, setting things. You could also blend in extra reinforcements here of special things. If they can get all their work done this week, or get a good grade on that next quiz, you can add in those reinforcements as well. So develop these routines. I think I'm kind of repeating things here. Another big thing I really like that can be useful for you, and I say it a couple times in this one, is when I used to have my kids going into a class, speaking from a special educator side, I would have to think about 3 things. And I think that can be really useful for us right now for all kids. And that could be saying, when you go into class today, remember, focus on these 3 things today. And these may change over time as they get really good at one, but it helps kids kind of focus and helps kids give something concrete to think about. And big things are, look at your teacher, pay attention when they're talking, be engaged. Show you're engaged by answering or asking questions, making a comment. And when I was in, everything I'm hearing from teachers are they want to hear your children are engaged, they're paying attention to it. When I went to my own kids' back to school night, multiple teachers said, I want to hear from them every day. Something, a comment, a question, something. Doesn't have to feel profound to them, but has to be something that they're saying. So reinforce that with your kids. Ask a question, answer a question, just make a comment. Show your teacher you're engaged. Or maybe it's write down your homework, write down something. But those 3 things idea, I think, can work well because it's a manageable chunk. I can think of 3 things, I can track 3 things. In the same vein, you could look at checklists. And these don't have to be complex. I just pulled these up I pulled the one on the left, this distance learning routine or checklist for parents. If you can see it, this distance learning checklist for students. Be present to monitor behavior, limit distractions and noises are in the parent checklist. On the kid checklist, it was have a calm body, good listening, looking eyes, sit in your chair. So get a good chair for them, get a nice space for where they can work. But these don't have to be complicated. I made the one on the right modeled after a form I used to use in my own school called a travel card that would follow kids around the school during the day. You can see, again, I've got my 3 things there: look at teacher, ask a question, write down your homework. I just have kind of the class they have, and then they can check off. You could put this on a piece of paper, and then they could redo it. Or if you have a computer at home, you could kind of quickly put this up in a Word doc in a table, and get them involved. What do you think you should be paying attention to? What's really important that you want to pay attention to, or you want to try and do in school? Again, give them ownership, get them involved. As they get older, you want them that way. You want them to advocate for themselves. You want them to be autonomous. 4th to 8th grade is your time when this is really happening. So by the time they go into high school, by the time they're moving on to jobs, they're independent and they're doing these things on their own and they're successful and they're confident. Another way to look at this is getting started for the day. So have your stuff ready to start the school day. Everything they need should be in their space every day. And it's probably all the same things all the time. Paper, pencils, books, backpack, a small whiteboard and a marker. These are very inexpensive to get for $1 at a dollar store. You can grab, a whiteboard. Dollar stores are great places to go. I think there's a question later on where someone's asking for materials. Go to a dollar store. They've got tons of things, and you don't have to, spend a lot of money on these things to get something that can be useful for your kids. Try not to have toys in the room, things that could cause distractions for them. You'll notice I don't put a lot of don'ts in this presentation. And my advice to you would be put less don'ts into what you're doing every day as well. Focus more on the what's. What do you want them to do? The positives. Focus on stuff that you want them to do that's incompatible with what you don't want them to do. And you can be more proactive, more positive, and kids respond way better to that. The same idea of checking in. So this getting started of the day, check in with them, make sure they're ready, and then back off. And even this thing, maybe you're very hands-on when you're first starting this checklist for the day and this routine of what your morning looks like and having everything done. And then you start backing off. So they're more responsible for it. You're just kind of running in quickly and saying, all right, do you have everything? Yeah, I see you do. Nice job. Or no, I meant you don't have your book. Maybe you need your book for that class right now. Go grab that. And the next day, check in again, but try to give them ownership, give them control. Another way that I kind of really like this is coming directly out of a comment from a teacher, goes directly to the last slide, but they phrased it as a pregame. So maybe you respond really well to this, you're a big football fan, or your kids are, would respond, hockey fans, football fans around here. We're in Boston, right? So this pregame idea could really resonate with kids. Same idea though. Help to ensure as much as possible that the setup of the technology is right, that you've got everything you need in that space. They talk about fuel. So do you need food and water, a snack available, or are you getting that on your break time afterwards? Some kind of checklist for it. And again, give them ownership. Have them help develop this routine, have them help develop this schedule, and they're much more likely to follow through it than if you're the one dictating everything. And then what do you do on break time? Or what are some things you could do on break time? Well, one would be, I think, if you've got 10 minutes or so, get out of that room, get out of that chair, get up, move around, get someplace else. So you kind of cutting that thing, you're breaking stuff. Teachers know we don't learn well by sitting in the same spot for really more than 15 or 20 minutes at a clip. I try to get up and move around. I spend a lot of time at my desk in front of my computer, but I still try to move periodically when I can. I get stuck in a lot of hour-long Zoom meetings right now, or 2-hour-long Zoom meetings, like our kids do. But even then, they try to kind of move around. So get them outside, get a quick snack, get water, find something movement, have them run around the house. Jumping jacks, butt kickers, touch the ceiling. Crossing midline even can really get your brain kind of re-engaged and refocus on things. So touching cross things or playing with things on opposite sides of you. And make sure they've got what they need ready for next class. Give them ownership. Do you have everything? Look around. What do you see? And they can say, yeah, I think I'm all set. And you go, right, yeah, I think you're all set. Or no, remember, I don't see your sharpened pencil. So make them say it, make them see it, and then you can prompt when you have to, or do they actually go to the bathroom. You could play more with this opportunities for movement. I'm a big one on movement, physical activity, that we got such good evidence that that's really helpful for all of us, certainly our kids. So think about how to embed that into your day in different ways throughout the day, during breaks, during lunch, and then after school too. Really important that kids are getting a half hour, an hour of hard movement, some kind of movement every day. Sorry, checking my time. I want to make sure I'm talking too long for folks here. Another question people had, and this is really important: how do I check in with teachers, and how often do I check in with teachers? My feedback I was getting from other teachers was about once per week you should be checking in. That seems about right. I think mostly I'm kind of hearing from that. If you notice a problem, check in sooner, check in that day. But as a general rule, try to have a connection once per week. I always like to lead with positive. So do that with your teacher. What is Samantha doing well? What is Aisha doing well? And then where do they need help? Where might I provide support for them? Ask about what suggestions do you have for how I might support my child at home. And another thing is, at least in the district where we are, I think teachers are having support sessions. Some districts are saying, some schools are saying, every day they have to have a kind of a block of support sessions. So find out from that teacher, especially in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they're passing around more. They're much more independent in middle school. They may be in elementary school, but both grade levels, both schools should have some type of support session. So find out when those are, and try to get your children involved. Okay, and then I just asked, what is advice from teachers? What would you say to families? And these were important too, I think. This idea of setting aside time to talk and validate feelings. This is really challenging for all of us. I know families are stressed to the absolute limit with everything going on, and you're now a teacher at home on top of everything else that you're trying to do. It's really hard for all of us. Kids are having a hard time because they're not interacting with their friends or not interacting with their peers. Try to talk about that and try to, find ways to, create those opportunities and create those chances. Quality and quantity of sleep is more important than ever. So really try to help our kids. I know they're in front of screens all day long now. Our minds just kind of keep churning. So try, without getting into too many battles, I know this can be a really tough fight. Try to limit the screens if you can. Certainly try to limit those screens for blocks of time after school. Get them outside playing different things or moving around, scavenger hunts or activities or things, and try to set up a time where maybe there's a block of time, at least before bed, where their minds can wind down and they can get to sleep. It's hard to go directly from a screen to sleep. The data really doesn't say any of us do that very well. And then another teacher said, this is hard for everyone, but school still is important. And we're still able to learn. Kids are still able to get work done in school. I think that's the main part of the presentation that I had. Maybe I spoke too fast, but we have a couple of slides in here that folks had emailed Evelyn prior to this week, some questions. I'd like to answer those, and I put those up. And then if anyone else has emailed questions, we can find out those as well. So this was a fantastic question, and gosh, I know you're in a really difficult spot. I have 3 kids too, but they are not at these ages now. So the question was, I have 3 kids working remotely from home, 1st, 5th, and 8th grade. How would you recommend alternating between the 3 for helping them with their schoolwork? So this is a really important question, and I almost may back up my answer. So really, what I was trying to stress this whole time is your 8th graders, your older kids should be much more independent. You should expect the independence from them. Give them the ownership of it, be scaffolding more with them. So if you're thinking about how you're alternating or what your ratio of time is, really the majority of your time is going to be with that first grader. This is much more difficult for them. They're not used to working on their own. They're not used to working independently. So ballpark, maybe half of your time is dedicated to that first grader. Maybe 30% of your time is dedicated to that fifth grader. Maybe 20% of your time is dedicated to the eighth grader. The first grader, you're going to be with them, supporting classes. Some teachers are saying, I want you here at this time. So be there for that time, and then try to scaffold back when you can. Give them some space to do their work, and then pull yourself back out of the screen, maybe out of sight even, and see how they do, and take note of where you might want to give more support at different times, or be there ready to jump in if you need to give them support. But try to put the onus on them, even at that young age, for at least blocks of time. And then the fifth grade and the eighth grader, you're setting them up early on and then backing off. Like I said, getting them ready for class, being involved with them prior to and after class, but unlikely during class. The fifth grader, maybe, if teachers are asking for that. By middle school and eighth grader, I don't think the teachers want you in their screen. They want the kids to be there. So your support is before and after. And certainly when they're on breaks, try to kind of get involved in there, develop checklists for them. But gosh, I know it's really hard, and they're all on different schedules and they're all doing different things. But hopefully these ideas can provide some structure for help. Another question was, what are helpful activities kids can do during their break time that isn't always TV or computer? So if you go back to that slide, I had that kind of whole break time slide, and we talked about getting a snack, make sure you're ready for the next class, get outside and move around, go to the bathroom. I think movement is really crucial. Maybe some kind of movement at each break if they can, and don't get into arguments about this with your kids, but try to encourage that, because I think they've been in front of screens, they've been sitting in a still spot for a long time, so they really need to move and recharge, reset their brains so they're ready to actively engage and work in the next class. How often should parents be checking in with teachers? So like I said, the bottom line is probably once per week. Checking with teachers, another great question, really important question. And teachers may dictate that. Maybe some of your teachers are saying, I want to connect with you, I want to talk to you, this often. And again, I want to reiterate, rephrase this. Try to get them to say something or talk to them, encourage them to engage during every class at least one time. It's good practice. It's one thing we talk about is teacher-pleasing behaviors. It shows they're engaged. It shows they're paying attention to things. It's important, not only just for the appearances that they're engaged in things, but also that it really does engage them. And then they feel good about the comments. They feel better about that they get this, they know this, they're getting positive feedback, and there could be a positive loop there. And the last question that we got in advance was, what are some objects around the house that can be used to help with learning? They gave an example of how their kids was told to look for 6 objects that began with the letter B during one break. That's another really good question. I'm not sure if I've got great answers for this one, unfortunately. My sense is that doing that on a break, looking for objects with B on a break, was a type of scavenger hunt that maybe the teacher was trying to get kids to do, again, to get them moving around or around the house. So, take off with that. Kind of, you could play with that game, or little hide and seek games, or do different types of things on breaks. So again, moving and kind of messing around with them. Beyond that, I think you're just looking at, if you need things for school, I think I'd almost go back to going to the dollar store can be a good place to get dry erase boards, get pencils or papers, or even little activities, balls and cones and different things to set up little activities for kids. I have done some research on physical activity, and teaching teachers how to run little physical activity sessions in schools. And simple things the kids love to do were obstacle courses, any type of obstacle course. Setting up something in your front yard or even around the house. Jump over this, climb, do this, or hop through things, and do the same thing outside. If you've got a little bit of space, set up a few blocks or rocks or bricks and have kids kind of run circles around things. Even if it's repetitive, kids tend to just kind of get a kick out of it. And if you're able to do it with them, then younger kids or older kids may have even more fun engaging with it. So those are some of my thoughts. I hope this has been useful for you. I hope it's given you some ideas of things to think about. I think it's time for Evelyn to probably come back in, but happy to answer further questions if they're here, or if folks want to reach out afterward. I'm happy to help that way too.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris, for doing this. Super informative, super helpful for everybody watching. And again, for those who'll be watching at a later date. We did not get any more questions during the meeting, but like Chris said, please email me with any further ones that you have. And I meant to say this earlier in the presentation as well. We are continuing this series moving forward. So if you have any topics, questions, or things that regarding to remote learning and having kids just at home, tips that you would like to hear and learn more about, please email me. It's on the poster board that had the information with the Zoom, but if you don't have that, it's my name. So Evelyn.Oliverio, Oliverio @mahouse.gov. And we will take that into consideration for events moving forward. But again, Chris, thank you so much for doing this. For everyone watching, we will have the slides as well as this recording posted on all social accounts for the representative in the next few days. So keep an eye out for that. And again, thank you so much.